Before we jump into this show, I want to make sure you know that Flock Nation Speaks is on all major podcasting platforms. And just in case, because y'all the exclusive listeners out there, y'all are listening to the show. I want to let y'all know that Flock Nation Speaks is also on YouTube as well. So be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Be sure to heart the show on any major podcasting platform that you love. We can't wait to connect with you. And I mean me. All right. So get your drink, get your popcorn, and let's get ready for a great show. All right. Welcome into Flock Nation Speaks. Flock Nation Speaks. Flock Nation Speaks, your Baltimore Ravens podcast, where we talk about the best team in NFL history. If you're a Ravens fan, I am a huge Joe Flacco fan. Wise Usher once said, "Situations will arise in our lives." I'm talking about shut down. Like you're not throwing on Jimmy Smith. Joe is criminally underrated. Criminally, lock him up in cuffs. Criminally underrated. Lamar's put this team as a top 5 offense for the first time in 20 years. Got the arm talent. Jay Cutler had it too. I don't care about this argument against total TDs and all this. Oh, you want to talk about defense? Oh, until next time. All right, what is going on, good people? We back at it again. This is Flock Nation Speaks, your Baltimore Ravens podcast, where we talk about the best team in NFL history. Okay, I'm stop. If you're a Ravens fan, of course. Look. I can't. It's hard to even say that. It's hard to even say that after you lose, because then it makes you look bad that you said what you said. But anyway, look. I know. Last week I said some things. Okay, I said the Ravens gonna win big. They're gonna win huge. They're gonna take care of business at home, protect home field. They ain't do none of that. They ain't do none of that this week. They did none of it. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating to watch. It was frustrating to hear thoughts after the game, because everybody's frustration just running into each other, and you're trying to place blame when it's a total loss, right? It's coaching loss. It's an offensive loss. It's probably not more of a defensive loss. They play pretty well. I'm not gonna lie to you. But the 22-19 victory for the Ravens. Let's get into the recap. Okay, let's get into the recap of the game, because 22-19, the Colts ended up upsetting the Ravens in Baltimore. I've been to a Ravens home game where the Ravens lost, and as much fun as I had, I really wish they would have won. Okay, and this one was rainy. The fans out there braving the rain for y'all, and this is what we get. We play down to the competition that's in front of us. Here's the thing. Is it time to panic? Absolutely not. Right? I think that's the first things first. Don't panic. It's week 3. The Ravens do this every year. I thought the same thing. I actually heard that on the Ravens roundtable that Sip the Tally does with his crew. And I think it was Hendo from Rogue Pod who said it. But I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, the Ravens do this every single year. The Ravens always have a bad loss throughout the season where you're like, how the heck you lose that game? Right? Like, and then it usually comes back to bite them in the end when it comes to like the division or like playoff seeding or something. Is really where it hurts them, is not taking care of business in a game like this. The Ravens should have went in, took care of business, did what they needed to do, been done, got out, and been cool. But no. The Ravens did not have their best game. It started off good, but the continuation of it was not. 22-19 was the score, bringing the Colts to 2-1, bringing the Ravens to 2-1. So maybe they were more alike than we ever would have thought. But no Anthony Richardson this week. It was Gardner Minshew throwing the ball around, or at least trying to. 27 for 44 for 227 yards, 1 TD. On the other side, Lamar Jackson was 22 of 31 for 202 yards. No TDs when it came to the passing game, but he did have 2 TDs when it came to the rushing game and 101 yards on 14 carries. But Zach Moss, he said, you know what? You think you good, Lamar? You think you good? My guy. I can do a little bit better. I just ain't got the touchdowns, okay? I gave Gardner them. Okay? Zach Moss had 30 carries for 122. And then, of course, you had Michael Pittman, the leading receiver for the Colts, and Zay Flowers was the leading receiver for the Ravens as he's been over and over and over again. Michael Pittman looked good in this game, by the way. Josh Downs looked good in this game. They got a really young core, man. And that I think that's why I felt like the Ravens could come in and take care of business, and they simply just didn't do such a thing. Um, let's talk about the offense first. Like I said, 202 yards for Lamar, no passing touchdowns, but 2 rushing touchdowns. I felt like it seemed like to me when I watched the game, and like I said, like I want to preface this. I don't watch the game too analytically when I'm watching it. Right, I watch it as a fan. I watch it, as a guy who loves the Ravens and wants to see them be successful, but I try to analyze a little bit while I'm watching just to see what's up, just to kind of critique as I watch, right? I try to do some critiques on the fly or something like that. But I felt like Lamar Jackson had a pretty decent game. I think he made a couple of crucial mistakes, a couple of fumbles, one that didn't count and one that did. Fumbles seem to be an issue for whatever reason for him right now, but even still, like the fumbles in this game felt like it was more because of pressure than it was anything else. Like one of them, all 22 NFL films was basically saying that was almost like the tuck rule, right? He went to throw the ball, he tried to tuck it back in, and then he got swiped away. Which with why are you throwing the ball with so many bodies around you anyway? That's a testament to the offensive line, I think, and their struggles and the injuries at the offensive line, because I think that really needs to be the real discussion. I think we want to blame drops. We want to blame Lamar Jackson because he's the highest paid man, right? Sometimes we want to blame the defense because they give up the big stop. But I think right now, I think my biggest concern more than anything, because I think the offense and the weapons going to get it right. And I think the offensive line will get better as they go along. But right now, at this point, with the injuries that are plaguing that offensive line and have plagued that offensive line for the last couple years, really, and this whole team, I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing from this offensive line is that struggle, is that inconsistency. Because last week, I mean, my goodness, against a really good front seven at least, this team played their butts off on the offensive line. Now, you may have had to face off against a better overall defense in the Colts, but I mean, they were getting pressure with 4 over and over and over again. And it wasn't like it was like, oh, Lamar's holding on to the ball too much pressure. It was instant pressure. And I think that's an issue. I think that's something we got to figure out. Number one, I love Patrick McCarr. I really do. And I think he does a good job of playing at any position you ask him to play, right? He is that guy. He is that Swiss Army knife type of a guy. But I wish they would carve out a role for him, man, because I feel like he could excel. I feel like McCarr could be a really good offensive lineman, but I think he doesn't have the chance to play one particular position because they keep letting him be this versatile offensive lineman. And we saw that, I think he's a little undersized, especially for a tackle. He plays a little, I think he plays a little bit better at guard. I mean, honestly, if you don't have him play tackle, have him play right tackle, because Morgan Moses is a little bit suspect sometimes too on the right side. So, you know, and that's the other thing too. The other fumble was coming from the blind side, from Patrick McCarthy's side, which is probably your biggest injury on the offensive line, if nothing. And of course, your second biggest injury with Tyler Linderbaum, and there was a ball snapped way. I mean, it was a ground ball. It was a ground ball snapped to Lamar. So I feel like offensively, the first drive incredible. Like let's just be honest. The first drive was incredible. The first 2 drives were incredible. And to the end of that second drive, when Kenyon Drake fumbled the ball, and it completely turned the game. Now, one play don't always turn a game, but it felt like the wind completely came out of our sails. We got into panic mode. We got into press mode, and we started playing this game that we don't normally play until we get behind, or we play a really good team that gets up on us real quick, right? Which might be the same thing. Who knows? But, that was my thing. Like, I think, sometimes the Ravens, for some reason, feel like they're pressing, and I want that to stop being a thing. I want that to stop being a thing. I was listening today to the Ravens roundtable once again, sip the tally, and they were talking about how Lamar kind of plays hero ball sometimes, and I think that's just who he is, right? I think he knows he can make a play on every play, literally, right? Like he's done it before. He's done incredible things. He does incredible things, but sometimes he does play hero ball, and it begs the question: is that an issue, and is it not? Because if there's times when if he didn't play hero ball, we wouldn't have any offense to show for it. So it's kind of that's a double edged sword. That's a hard one to. I don't want to take what Lamar Jackson does well and take it away just because he may do it too much. But I will say, um, I think the turnovers could be less. And I talked about it even last week previewing this game. The Ravens got to have a clean game, and they simply just didn't. The Ravens got to have a clean game when it comes to turnovers. They got a clean game when it comes to penalties, and they simply just didn't in both facets. There was a couple of missed calls here and there, but the Ravens had chances to win this game. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to somebody at work today, and they like, I don't think anybody really wanted to win that game. They both starting at each other's 40s and can't find a way to win this game. I don't understand it. And I felt the same way. I was disappointed by the Ravens offense. I think Zay Flowers played well, but I think there is some sort of something. I don't know if it's just within the scheme or what, that they are trying to get Zay Flowers the ball as much as they can. And I think, because of that, you're lacking Rashad Bateman, right? I think you're lacking maybe even a little bit of Devin Duvernay. I know he had a drop in the game too. And possibly Nelson Aguilar too, because he makes like Nelson Aguilar. He somehow finds a way to make big catches when you need him. And it feels like they're leaning so far into Zay Flowers, they're missing other guys on this team. And this team, weapons wise, should be practically unstoppable. You got everything you could ever need. You got everything you could ever need on this team when it comes to, especially, I think with Odell and without Odell, I think you still got an impressive receiving core that you have, built up a little bit more, especially if Bateman can stay healthy. But I think also some of this goes back to growing pains, right? This is a new offense. It is only week 3. I say the preseason after the preseason for a reason, and I mean 3 to 4 weeks, to really get right, because like these guys didn't play in preseason, especially Lamar. And I think that hurts a little bit because it takes a little bit of time to get back into that rhythm because Lamar hasn't played in so long. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse. He still got to be, he still got to play playing football. But he made some plays in this game that kept us in the game. He made some plays in this game that extended drives when guys weren't open. But did he miss some throws here and there too? Yeah. Sometimes it's hard when you're watching a game, especially when you're watching the game at the time. Sometimes it's hard to tell who Lamar's looking at, who he's focused on and stuff like that. But I think offensively, it was one of those things where I think the pressure, number one, was just too much. The defensive pressure, the hurries. I feel like hurries, for whatever reason, hurries are something aren't talked about enough when it comes to hurries and pressures and stuff like that. I think like people hate that type of stuff, but that's the type of stuff that like makes an impact. If it's not a sack, like of course sacks make the biggest impact, but hurries and pressure can cause an error and throw, so quick, fast, and in a hurry. But defensively, I thought the Ravens were excellent. Defensively, I thought the Ravens were excellent. I thought Patrick Queen, with the exception of the one, with the exception of the one Mawson by Moss. I think he played well, and I think he has been playing well. This defense has played very much bend but don't break. That's something I want to bring up. Probably, on the next show, but this team being kind of bend but don't break, that type of situation. But I think Brandon Stevens led the team in tackles. Patrick Queen was really good. I think Patrick Queen was pretty good, except for the one play. Kyle Hamilton was, excellent. Kyle Hamilton looked. He looked like his hair was on fire. He was awesome. He played. Kyle Hamilton played like player of the game material. He was in on sacks. He was in on tackles. He was making plays. However, he can make plays. And I think, overall, my overall thoughts when it comes to this game is defensively, I think the Ravens are doing exactly what they want to do. This defense has played well throughout. this entire season pretty much. And I think this defense is doing exactly what they need to do. I think sometimes they get a little conservative. I think sometimes they take their foot off the gas a little bit. But, I mean, that's this team in general right now, right? When you got a chance to put the Colts away in the first quarter, it's a fumble, and you didn't do it, right? The fumble messed up everything. And then when you have a chance to bounce back, you go 5 possessions with 3 punts and 2 turnovers, and bouncing back is the biggest thing, and some of that goes into coaching as well. A Super Bowl winning head coach should not have these issues over and over again year after year. But and I think the thing is too, like the punt and the fair catch with Zay Flowers too. Why, if Zay Flowers was just out there to fair catch the punt, why didn't you just keep Duvernay out there to begin with? It's been a whole another question that just I don't know if it's ever gonna make sense. I don't know if it's ever gonna make sense why that was even why you a special teams savant supposedly, but then you keep making special teams blunders. That don't even make sense. But yeah, I think there was a lot of frustration. I don't think it's time to panic. I really don't. I don't think it's time to panic. I thought the first couple weeks, first 3 to 4 weeks could be a little bit more of a it's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be 4 learning curve games. And unfortunately, Cleveland, you got Cleveland this upcoming week, which is another divisional game. So if you can take care of business there, you feel a little bit better about losing this Colts game, unfortunately. So, they're going to have to play well against Cleveland. And once again, it's weird because Cleveland has maybe even possibly a better pass rush with Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett than the Colts do. But I guarantee you, for whatever reason, the Ravens will come out and play that pass rush so much better. So we'll see.